Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up showtime with Liverpool looking to continue their fantastic Premier League winning run this weekend. This time it's Bournemouth who are the opponents. It is away from home. We are still riding the wave of that fantastic, hilarious 5-2 win against Everton on Wednesday night. I'm so sad I wasn't able to do a post-match reaction video for that because those are the kind of videos that I live for and the kind of videos that I'm sure you guys absolutely love to see as well, where we can all just have a massive laugh at the team that is supposedly one of our biggest rivals. But never mind that, we've got to move on. I'm sure the players will be moving on, and already their heads are firmly focused on the task at hand, and that is this game against Bournemouth on Saturday at 3 o'clock. And it's a really tough turnaround for Liverpool to have to deal with. Obviously less than 72 hours since our last game. Bournemouth will have had an extra day's rest after they played against Crystal Palace, albeit away from home on Tuesday night, and I think that will make a huge amount of difference in terms of the intensity they can show going into this game. I think it's good for Liverpool that we did see a little bit of rotation against Everton, although of course the players that came into that side were absolutely fantastic. It's not like we ended up fielding a weakened team. They played perhaps even better than the 11 everyone expected to play would have done, but hopefully that'll mean we're not too tired. But I think obviously this is a big game for Bournemouth. I'll talk about them plenty more later on in the video, but I'm expecting them to come flying out of the blocks, and the way Jurgen Klopp talked about them in his press conference, has talked about how we've got to approach this game. He was essentially saying that we've got to show some real intensity despite the fact that the squad is up against it with the short turnaround after the game. So team news going into the game, of course, Alisson Becker is back entering the fray after he served that one match ban. I'm pretty sure he'll get thrown straight back into the side, despite the fact Adrian has done perfectly well every single time he's had to deputise, and Alisson has had his problems so far this season, still yet to keep a clean sheet, and I think it would be fantastic if he could get one of those at last this weekend, because it's been, you know, we've seen in games with Bournemouth in the past, especially at home against big sides, where when they get goals that help the crowd get behind them, then they can turn things around and they can put in a real show. It does give them that extra 10%. It's obviously a tight ground. It's an old-fashioned ground. The fans are essentially on the players' backs, and we as Liverpool fans have witnessed it firsthand, where, you know, one goal has completely changed the momentum of the game and lesser teams have crumbled under that kind of pressure. You'd hope it wouldn't happen to Liverpool, but I think the best way to avoid any chance of that happening this weekend is to simply keep a clean sheet, and of course that would give us a huge boost, having not kept one with Alisson Becker in between the six so far this season. But he will be back in the game and probably starting in net. Apart from that, Jurgen Klopp says he hasn't got any fresh injury concerns, although having come in this morning, he's had to slightly change his thinking in terms of the lineup. He said he already had a lineup for this game in mind. Presumably he will have planned both of this and the derby as a set of two games. Certainly the way he's changed the lineup for the derby match suggests that he was thinking of both games at the same time, and therefore thinking, well, certain players will miss out then, and then certain players will miss out against Bournemouth. Apparently when he arrived at the training ground, I think it was this morning, he was informed that there were a few issues. There were a few players who weren't quite 100%, although he says there's no one's been ruled out so far. No one who wasn't already ruled out, like of course Firmino, there's no chance he's going to play. By the sounds of it, there's no news on Joel Matip, so he won't be available. But anyone who wasn't, you know, anyone who wasn't ruled out already has not been ruled out of this game, which is of course a very positive sign, although everything could change, what with the team having played a training session this afternoon since that Jurgen Klopp press conference. So as for how I think we're actually going to line up, of course it is going to be Alisson Becker in between the sticks for Liverpool. Ahead of him, Virgil van Dijk is an absolute shoo-in. I think Dejan Lovren is a slightly more interesting one, because of course, as I said, Jurgen Klopp said that he did kind of plan his lineup for this already, and some of that's been changed by the derby, and also the fact that by the sounds of it, he's already planning to rotate around both of those games. And Lovren has played so many games since he got thrust back into the side due to Joel Matip's injury, and he's not getting any younger. I think he might actually be the oldest centre-back at the club at the moment. So he's been playing some very high-intensity matches, and if this game was at home, then I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we did draft in Joe Gomez instead. I just do think with it being away from home, we can't really take any risks, and with the form Joe Gomez has unfortunately been in this season, starting him at centre-back over someone like Dejan Lovren has to be perceived as a risk at the moment. So I think Dejan Lovren will get the nod again. Joe Gomez will probably get the nod either in the Champions League against Salzburg, or perhaps more likely the home game against Watford in a week's time. But for now, I think Lovren has to continue partnering Virgil van Dijk. I think at right back, we almost definitely definitely see Trent Alexander-Arnold. These are the kind of games where we need the attacking fullbacks to help out with the attack. And then at left back, I do think we see Andrew Robertson, but I would in no way be surprised if we do see James Milner or someone like that filling in the left back slot, simply because when Jurgen Klopp talks about these players that are maybe not ruled out, but as a slight doubts for the game, and he will have to keep an eye on, I feel like Andrew Robertson is definitely going to be one of those players. You know, he's played so much football. Time and time again on these videos, I've said perhaps we see Andrew Robertson get a rest. It hasn't happened yet. I think this might finally be the game for it to happen, especially because Bournemouth, while they're not in the best vein of form at the moment, are still a reasonably solid attacking side. And if we want Trent Alexander-Arnold on one side to be bombing forward and joining the attack, then maybe it makes sense to have someone on the other side play a little bit more defensively. And if that's the case, then we won't miss Andrew Robertson as much if he drops out the side for someone else, simply because, you know, we've got other players who can play as a defensive left back, but it's what he offers going forward which is absolutely unique and simply cannot be replaced within the side. But if we get Trent to bomb on and contribute loads and loads to the attack, then we can maybe afford to bring in someone like James Milner on the other side who can be a little bit more steady, help out with the centre-back pairing, and just keep things shored up, especially, of course, with the game being away from home as well. But if I had to put money on it, I'd say it's maybe 65% likely that Andrew Robertson is the starting left-back on Saturday afternoon. Moving on to the midfield then, this is where I think we will start to see wholesale changes from the team that started in the Merseyside derby. I think Jordan Henderson comes back into the side, obviously made a fantastic performance off the bench in a, I think, slightly more advanced role as well than maybe what I'm expecting to see from him this weekend. Of course, he was fantastic when Fabinho was at the number 6, playing as more of a number 8, a more dynamic midfielder who could also get out wide as well. And who knows, maybe we do put someone else in that number 6 role to accommodate for it, but sit and allow Henderson to play slightly further forward and play a little bit more freely in that midfield 3. But I think what we've seen so far since the Fabinho injury suggests to me that Henderson is seen as more of a number 6 backup, if only for the time while Fabinho's out the side. So I think he continues in that role as the most defensive-minded midfielder of the 3 in this game against Bournemouth. I think ahead of him, Gini Wijnaldum will keep his place in the side. I don't see any reason why he would take him out. He just offers so much in that midfield role. And also, if Henderson's on the pitch as well, then they can switch around. You know, if it's not working, if we need what Henderson offers going forward instead of what Wijnaldum offers going forward, you know, if we need someone who's going to be a bit more aggressive in tackles rather than assured and calm in possession, and someone who's going to press and move the ball forward a little bit quicker. I know it's like a cliche around Henderson that he doesn't pass forward and stuff like that, but between him and Gini Wijnaldum, when they're both playing in the same role on the pitch of the number 8 ahead of the number 6, I think Henderson actually shows a bit more forward intent, certainly in the speed at which he tries to get the ball to the front 3 or to the fullbacks as they bomb on and stuff like that. So I think having Gini on the pitch alongside Henderson just gives us a few more options. They can switch round, they can move around during the games as well, so I think it'd be great to have those options. And then on the other side, I think we might actually see Naby Keita as the third midfielder. He's someone we just haven't seen much of at all over the last couple of months. Some of it to do with injury, sometimes to do with illness, and sometimes it's just a selection thing where he's not seen as being as good as the other options we've got available at the moment. But if Jurgen Klopp has got a specific plan for this game and it centres around rotating players around, I know Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to be pretty much fully fit as well, so it's likely that maybe we see him as well, even if that's from the starting 11 or from the bench. But we saw Naby Keita start against Bournemouth last season, so we know Jurgen Klopp certainly likes to trust him in these kind of games, and it also offers us just a little bit of a wild card in the midfield if we're going for the safe bets with Henderson and Gini Wijnaldum. We've seen, certainly like in the derby as well, that Jurgen Klopp doesn't mind throwing players in, and he said that some of these players, they've been showing so much in training, and when we need fresh legs, he knows now that those players are available because they are working extremely hard behind the scenes to prove themselves to the manager. And that's what makes it a little bit difficult to call whether or not Keita's going to come into the side, because none of us watch the training sessions. We can't see what Naby Keita's offering behind the scenes to the manager. But I think we've seen him at times so far this season. Jurgen Klopp still talks about him very positively. So I think if we are going to see him at any point, if he has been turning up in training and showing Jurgen Klopp what he's made of, then I think this is the game where he will make an appearance in midfield. But if not, if Jurgen Klopp prefers what he's been seeing from Oxlade-Chamberlain behind the scenes, then I think he is the one who will compete the midfield 3. But if I had to put money on it, and I certainly wouldn't like to because it's a really difficult one to call, then I would go for Naby Keita this weekend against Bournemouth. And then ahead of them, I don't think we will see any surprises in the front 3. Obviously, Origi, absolutely fantastic against Everton. Shaqiri, absolutely fantastic against Everton. And it would feel so harsh to bomb them out the side. But what was so great about what they offered was they worked within the system Jurgen Klopp had created, and I think he'll have a different plan for how he wants to exploit Bournemouth's defence and exploit the gaps that they leave, and I think that will centre around bringing back the big guns in attack. So I think it'll be Salah, Firmino and Mane leading the line for Liverpool. So taking a little look at Bournemouth then, they haven't exactly been in the most fantastic form of late. They have lost their last 4 games in a row in the Premier League, which is more than they'd lost in the previous 11 games combined. They'd only lost 3 games up to that point, and given how tight it is at the bottom of the table at the moment and at the middle of the table and just anywhere below where Liverpool are at the moment, to be honest, those kind of runs of form can put you in serious peril. Although, of course, on the flip side, a good run of form can absolutely catapult you up the table. So Bournemouth will be going into this game knowing that one win could really, really turn things around for them. So I don't think they'll be looking at it as thinking, well, you know, we might just roll over for Liverpool and then try and recoup the points next weekend. They'll be looking at this match thinking that this is a great chance to turn their season around. And even though they have lost their last 4 games, their last non-loss, and it was a win as it happens, was a home game against Manchester United. Although, of course, you can argue for absolutely ages that Man United are nowhere near in any kind of class that's close to Liverpool at the moment. But we know Bournemouth like to deliver these kind of performances at home to big sides. As I said, Liverpool have been the victim of it in the past. We've seen Man United be the victim of it plenty of times. Arsenal have suffered here as well. Chelsea lost here at the Vitality Stadium even 4-0 last season. So these are the kind of games that they thrive on, and I think it's certainly a huge, huge boost for Liverpool that Harry Wilson will not be available for them. Obviously, in the terms of his loan deal, he's only there for 1 season on loan from Liverpool this season, and that means he won't be able to play either in this match or the return game at Anfield later on the season, which is a massive boost because he offers them so much. When they played against Spurs, which was sort of their last game against a big team that you can really use as a blueprint for how they're going to show up for this match, he was the one who got both goals. His ability on set pieces is fantastic as well, because it's the kind of thing you can't really defend against. You know, I say that it'd be great to keep a clean sheet, you know, partially because that'd be a great boost for the defence and the goalkeeper, but also because if they do get a goal and the atmosphere starts rocking, and it obviously, I don't expect it to affect our players. I think they can perform under the pressure, but it will certainly affect those Bournemouth players, and it will give them the push forward that they need to at least try and get some sort of result out of this game. And when you've got a player like Harry Wilson who can take brilliant free kicks, it's hard to account for the fact that that might happen at some point, that he will just get them back into the game at any given moment and give them the momentum they need. So it's a huge, huge boost that he's not going to play, and it will affect the way they set up in their system as well, because when he came on against Tottenham last time out, well, not last time out, but the last weekend, he absolutely changed the game. They weren't really offering much at all up to that point going forward. They have, of course, got a former Liverpool striker in their ranks at the moment in Dom Solanke. I was surprised to see him start against Tottenham because, of course, the 1 goal he scored in a Liverpool shirt is still his only Premier League goal to date, despite this being his 3rd season in the league, which is an absolutely astonishing stat to hold as a centre-forward. Certainly an astonishing stat for a centre-forward in the Premier League who commanded a £19 million transfer fee to be holding. So maybe there's an old score to settle and maybe he shows up this weekend, but it certainly doesn't look like it's been clicking for Bournemouth going forward of late. And just defensively, they seem to be playing a system that is not working for them. It's a little bit similar to Everton's insofar as there's a kind of zonal feel to it where they're not marking players or following runs essentially. They're just trying to mark out spaces, and the issue lies in that they're not following runs at all. It was the same problem for Everton as well, where Liverpool were able to just run through them. Any sort of diagonal with a clever ball to find someone completely undid the Everton defence. And when Bournemouth came up against Tottenham last weekend, the exact same thing was happening. Tottenham were just able to run through Bournemouth at will at times, and that is why I have huge confidence going into this game. While Bournemouth are a much better side than Everton are at the moment, and while it is at their stadium where they're capable of pulling out a result, I think with the resilience this Liverpool side's got at the moment, and the fact that maybe, just maybe, that Everton game was the catalyst for us to finally start scoring goals in bucket loads after plenty of 2-1 wins. I think enough 2-1 wins to last a lifetime, enough 2-1 wins to make your lifetime a lot shorter as well. I think we're all getting very, very stressed with the amount of games that Liverpool were sending to the wire. I think it would be nice for that Everton game to be a springboard and a jumping off point for us to start actually putting games to bed a lot earlier, managing them a little bit more effectively as well, managing leads a little bit more effectively, and hopefully I think this is the kind of game where we'll start to see Liverpool really, really hit their stride. So of course I'm expecting a Liverpool win. Score prediction wise, I'm going to go with something like 3-0. I was going to say 3-1 because we have been conceding goals in bucket loads. Well, not in bucket loads, but pretty much every single game with clockwork regularity at the moment. We let at least one over the line. But with Bournemouth lacking Harry Wilson, I think it just completely derails any attacking plan that they've been trying to use this season. And that should hopefully give Liverpool the opportunity to keep their first Premier League shutout with Alisson Becker between the sticks of the season. But regardless of the scoreline, whether it's 3-0, 4-3, 2-1, I reckon it's going to be something like a 3-0 or a 2-0. I reckon it's definitely going to be a Liverpool win. Let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comments below. Apart from that, as always, hit that like button down there if you enjoyed the video. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at elusive on Twitter. And I'll be back soon, sadly, not with post-match content. I'm again going to have to miss this one, but with some pre-match content for the game against Salzburg. Until then, bye for now.